Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. In this episode, I will be diving into the reason why Equatorial Guinea's oil and gas industry continue to shrink. I will be looking at the reason why oil and gas production was a boon for one of Africa's smallest nations, but it's now caught up between dwindling hydrocarbon reserves and also the pressure of the energy transition. I will be looking into some perspective in this video. First, I will cover why exports of oil and gas briefly made Equatorial Guinea relatively rich. Secondly, I will be looking into its attempt to diversify its oil-dependent economy has fallen short. I will also close this episode and looking at why the country grabs with strategies to extend its energy industry lifespan. I will also conclude with a scenario, so I would encourage you to watch this video to the end for clarity and better understanding. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. On February 2024, the American oil giant ExxonMobil announced it was exiting the Republic of Guinea, effectively severing a nearly 3 decades long relationship. The company played a leading role in development of oil sector in the African nation. In 1995, Mobil Corporation discovered the Zanfro oil field, and Exxon entered the scene after its takeover of Mobil in 1999. The Zanfro field turned the country into a net export of oil, and at its peak, they accounted for more than half of the Equatorial Guinea's oil output, resulting in substantial economic benefits for the country of Equatorial Guinea. If you look at perspective, ExxonMobil exit risks sending negative signals to other investors at a time when the government is keen on maintaining interest in its declining oil and gas sector. Darren Woods, the CEO of ExxonMobil, said that the decision to leave the country of Equatorial Guinea is consistent with the company's strategy of reducing capital spending and focusing on regions with higher growth potential, such as Guyana and also Permian Basin in the United States. In other words, ExxonMobil did not sell or see lucrative potential in the Equatorial Guinea oil sector. Meanwhile, the country's ambition to become a regional gas hub, capitalizing on its location on Central African west coast, has yet to materialize. If you look at Equatorial Guinea's position, the decline of oil and gas production and also shrinking of other already small oil and gas reserves base spelled serious troubles for the economy that's notably reliant on the proceeds of fossil fuel. To lead those oil-dependent countries as well out of such crunch, the government of Equatorial Guinea will need to succeed in simultaneously in its number of top challenges. One is attracting suitable investment to expand the oil sector domestically. Another is reaching agreement with neighboring countries on both gas supplies and joint fields development. At the same time, essential institutions reforms and also economic diversification also needs to occur in the country of Equatorial Guinea. If you look at perspective, the country's oil and gas output comes exclusively from its offshore fields. Equatorial Guinea is the smallest producer within the organization known as OPEC. Only this combined approach could help Equatorial Guinea and reduce its vulnerability as energy transition accelerates and marginalized small oil, gas and other producers will face different occupational issues. If you look at the marginal production with the small proven reserve that Equatorial Guinea does have, Equatorial Guinea is not particularly rich in oil and gas. Its proven reserves, if you look at figures, about 1.1 billion barrels account for about 0.07% of the world's total and 0.7% of Africa, ranking 37 in the world and 9th in the continent of Africa. It has not even half of the reserve of its neighbors, known as Gabon, and only a fraction of those of Nigeria, with its shares maritime borders alongside those countries. If you look at statistics and more importantly, its proven gas reserve are also even smaller on both global and regional scale at only 39 billion cubic meters. These are equivalent to what the United Kingdom consumed in 2022. This leaves Equatorial Guinea ranked 50th globally at 0.02% of global reserves and 9th in Africa with just over 0.2%. If you look at the situation of the country country's oil and gas output comes exclusively from its offshore field. Oil production averages 0.119 million barrels per day in 2022, looking at figures. Or, if you put that into figures, 1.7% of Africa's production and 0.1% of the world. But that still puts the country among the continent's top 10 oil producers. Equatorial Guinea is the smallest producer within OPEC. If you look at different strategies as Equatorial Guinea struggles to move away from the oil-dependent economy, favorable conditions for export also does exist in different areas. Equatorial Guinea's domestic energy consumption is small. Its population of around 1.7 million consumes only 4% of the country's oil output, which creates a sizable surplus for export. The country's location at an almost equal distance between the markets in Europe, Asia, and also North America gives it an additional advantages. This all goes a long way to remind the Equatorial Guineans with regards to other options looking at diversifying its economy. Although natural gas plays a larger role in the country's energy mix, an electricity mix of 67% versus 0.6% for oil, the oil and local gas market is also small. That allows Equatorial Guinea to export the surplus in the form of liquefied natural gas known as LNG to its oil liquefaction operated by the company's EGLNG in the capital city of Malabo. The plant has a capacity of 5 billion cubic meters per year, equivalent to just 0.8% of the global liquefaction capacity. If you look at this particular African country, in 2022, Equatorial Guinea ranked 15 amongst LNG export globally. Its gas exports are more diversified than its oil export, almost equivalent, targeting the markets in Europe 37%, Asia also has 34%, and Latin America 29%. However, if you look at other areas, considering facts and figures with regards to Equatorial Guinea's situation, the former Spanish colony located between Cameroon and Gabon consists of Rio Muni region on the mainland overlooking the Gulf of Guinea's plus 5 islands, including Biako, where the capital Malabo and the LNG terminal and liquefied plants are also located. And looking at its area with just over 28,000 square kilometers, slightly smaller than Belgium, with a population estimated to be over 1.6 million and also looking at 1.7 million people. The GDP of this particular country is about $19,000, just $7,000 as of 2002. President Teodoro Obiangema Basongo is in power since 1979. It's one of the world's longest ruling heads of state. Oil production increased a rate of 26% per year between 2000 and 2005, compared to Africa's average rate of 4.7% during that particular period. Production from the Zanfro oil field peaked in 2004 and around 0.2 million barrels per day. And in 2022, water leaked into the production vessels at the Zanfro field, forcing the platform to be retired 2 months later. Economic prospects, according to IMF, projecting the country's economy to continue to decline until 2028 due to dwindling hydrocarbon output, stalled structural reforms, weak governance, and also significant corruption vulnerabilities with regards to Equatorial Guinea's situation. If you look at strategic options, historically, the oil and gas sector generated substantial wealth for this small nation. Between 2007 and 2014, Equatorial Guinea was Africa's richest country on a per capita basis after being one of the poorest in the continent, and achieved an upper middle income status. Hydrocarbons amount for nearly 50% of both export and also gross domestic products, the GDP, and over 70% of the government's revenue as of 2022 figures. If you look at other areas, that high dependency highlights the peril Equatorial Guinea is facing. According to the World Bank, declining oil reserves and also failures to diversify its economy have been contracting the country output for almost a decade. Between 2013 and 2023, it shrank at an average rate of 4.2% per year. The visa problem is Equatorial Guinea. The short-lived boom followed by a decline as well. Equatorial Guinea's oil industry experienced a golden era from the mid-1990s to 2005, starting with the discovery of the Zanfro oil field. ExxonMobil held a 71.25% interest in the field, while the state-owned Guinea Equatorial de Petroleus GEP Petrol and the governments have 23.75% and 5% participating interest, respectively. The World Bank explained that the country's decision to join OPEC as an attempt to boost foreign investment and technology transfer other member states. If you look at other areas, the field began production in record time in 1996, which was followed by several discoveries. However, the rapid ramp up of production and also shortly peaked in 2005 and just over 380,000 barrels per day was followed by the substantial decline. In 2022, oil production contracted to levels least seen in 2000, nearly a third of the peak. There are no signs that the decline will be reversed under existing conditions. The main reason for the decline can be attributed to the scarcity of discoveries. The latest discovery made was in 2007 in the Exxon field. In 2017, Equatorial Guinea joined the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries known as OPEC, becoming the fourth sub-Saharan African country to join the Producers Organization after Nigeria in 1971, Gabon in 1975, and Angola in 2007. Interestingly, these other three joined OPEC when oil and export and output experienced a rapid expansion, whereas Equatorial Guinea joined when its production was at half its peak. The World Bank explains the country's decision to join OPEC as an attempt to boost foreign investment and technology transfer from other member countries, especially those in the Persian Gulf. If you look at other areas, natural gas has performed relatively better, even though the gas era started with the discovery of the Alba gas field in 1984 and production began in 1991, earlier than oil production. The field still accounts for approximately 45% of the country's daily output, and it's also sole supplier of the feed gas to the LNG plant in Malabo, which has been operated and operational since 2007. The aging of the Alba field has reduced the total output of the country's production peak already in 2013, but the decline has been smoother compared to the pressures and also fall in the oil production. Meanwhile, the growth in domestic demand in further reducing the country's export capacity. In the hope of safeguarding Equatorial Guinea's gas export and attracting international interest, its government set for a vision of establishing the country's as a regional gas liquefied hub, also receiving commodity from domestic fields from neighboring Cameroon and Nigeria for processing and exporting it to international market. Such a plan would extend the lifespan of the country's LNG facility, which is in jeopardy since gas supplies from the Alba field have begun to decline. The project, however, is progressing at a slow pace. In fact, it faces hurdles that include finalizing agreements with neighboring countries on the development of the cross-border oil and gas field, securing potential supplies, and also building connecting pipelines regards the particular region. To try different options and to look at how Equatorial Guinea can come out from this particular situation that it finds itself, if not now, and it will happen in the future. In 2019, Malabo launched a licensing rounds to allocate 27 oil and gas blocks. In the end, 3 blocks were awarded to small players such as African Oil Corp, a Canadian oil and gas company focused on Africa, and Panaro Energy, a London-based independent company. Following the licensing around, then the Ministers of Mines and Hydrocarbon, Gabriel Mbaga Obianga Lima, was quoted as saying that we will plan to do another licensing round and it will be done differently. In 2023, the government adopted an open door policy whereby any company can express interest and enter into the direct negotiation with the government. 1 block was awarded in 2023 to Panaro Energy as a result of such negotiation. To reduce the reputation damaged and also improve the appeal of investing in the country, the government announced several fiscal incentives, including slashing the corporate income tax rate. Equatorial Guinea finds itself in a challenging situation in an oil-dependent economy. An open door strategy is usually adopted when the success of a bidding round is doubtful. Generally, bidding rounds are also superior and most widely pursued strategies for allocation of oil and gas licenses. However, their success hinges on several factors, some that go beyond a country's border, such as prevailing oil and gas prices, others related to the country's potential. When prices are high and the country's oil and gas sector has a promising outlook, then competition among bidders tend to be strong. resulting in a windfall for the government. A failed bidding round does not attract sufficient interest can damage government's bargaining position. To avoid such announcement or outcome, the government uses a direct negotiation strategy. However, the problem with this policy is that the lack of transparency in allocating the licenses and that there is no guarantee of the best outcome for the government as a competitive bidding round will offer. To close this episode, these are the scenarios that I currently see with regards to the country of Equatorial Guinea. Most likely, poor prospect for oil production rebound. The departure of the ExxonMobil from Equatorial Guinea cast doubt and further doubts on the outlook of the country's energy sector. To reduce the reputation damage and improve the appeal of investing in the country, the government announced several fiscal incentives, like we've pointed out, effectively on 2024, including slashing the corporate tax at also rates from 35% to 25%. Such measures might help, but not enough to compensate for the limited potential for generating the kind of rewards a big player typically seeks. It was reported that Malabo has been trying to convince Italian energy firm Eni, a major player in Africa, to take over ExxonMobil's stakes in Zanfro, but so far with no success. Most, if not all, government prefer to see big industry players involved, given the financial and technical resources that smaller players are lacking. Also helps in new deal negotiation. However, a change in industry structure is expected when the maturity of the oil and gas province also advances. The government can tailor its strategy to accommodation such as new phases. With aging assets, technically challenging small fields and a high cost of exploiting them, Equatorial Guinea is among the producers that are exposed to energy transition pressure. The government's key concern is, therefore, to extend the longevity of its all-important hydrocarbon sector by trying to engage not necessarily the biggest names in the industry, but most agile actors. Hopefully, we've informed you with regards to the current situation facing the country of Equatorial Guinea, why this country is facing incredible challenges with regards to its oil-dependent economy, and why Equatorial Guinea's oil and gas industry continues to shrink, and why the country needs to do something. We want to thank you for watching. If you are new to this channel, we encourage you to check some of our informative video on this YouTube channel. We are looking forward to meeting you soon. Keep the conversation going and leave us a comment. Have a good day. Bye-bye.